Hey, how's it going, YouTube? This is Roberto Ex-JW here. Welcome to another video. Um, First, let me traditionally start off with my shout outs. I want to give a big shout out to the whole Ex-JW family and community. I want to give a shout out to specific Jehovah's Witnesses. I want to give a shout out to you Jehovah Witnesses who are faded. I want to give a big shout out to all the inactive Jehovah's Witnesses. And I want to give a shout out to you if you're J-Dub and you're trying to find your way. You're trying to find your way over to this side, to the Ex-JW side. That's right. I done said it. There you go. There you have it. Listen, on a serious note, I hope that everyone's doing pretty well or holding up. I know if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're watching this video, or if you're watching a Ex-JW video for your specific reasons, I would say so respectfully. And so that's my whole approach, because every video I always make sure that I'm trying to tailor it to a specific type of situation possibly you might possibly be in, if it makes sense. So with this video, I want to talk about a few things. I want to get a little deep, a little in depth with you. I want it to be a little close and personal with you. I want to go, I want to go heart to heart in this talk, in me, in this conversation and me talking to you. I was thinking about it and I put a lot of thought to it. And in my idea of making this specific video, it kind of like took me personally back. It took me back into the days of when I was a Jehovah's Witness. It took me back, in memory lane. I started reminiscing on certain things, on some things, and it just made me think about how the whole operation works, how the whole Jehovah Witnesses religion and how they operate, how things work. And today what I want to talk about is some of the things that Jehovah Witnesses face, some of the things that you're facing right now in real time, in real life, some of the things that has you stuck and has a hold on you in the Jehovah's Witness religion. I think that we need to take time, analyze it, dissect it, and break it down. Because see, what happens is in life, when you break down certain situations that are sensitive and they're complicated, you start to unravel the pieces. And then it becomes easier to understand. And of course, in time, and with understanding of each piece and what's going on to the situation, it becomes complicated. And so that brings me to what I'm going to be talking about in regards to you Jehovah's Witnesses. This is for every Jehovah Witness. Please feel free, grab a seat, grab a cup of coffee, whatever, give me your attention. Whether you're inactive Jehovah Witness, or if you're fading, I think that now's a good time that you're catching this video. And if you're not, if you're just facing some type of emotional, mental confusions, hopefully this video can help you. The problem with Jehovah's Witnesses, the problem in that religion, the problem that you're facing, okay? The problem that you're facing is that you can't see right what you fail to see because you within the walls of the Jehovah's Witness religion. It is not by any means your fault. Okay? The reason it's not your fault is because no one can see, at least at first, when you're Jehovah's Witness, you cannot see through the veil. Jehovah's Witnesses has a veil, okay, a strong veil that's over your eyes. It's over your eyes, and this veil is very strong, and you cannot see through it. And because you cannot see through it, okay, you're stuck. Plain and simple. You're stuck where you're at. Because you're stuck where you're at, you will never make a move, and you'll never leave. You will, because you can't see through that. Now you may ask yourself, well, how is that? Oh, you may question that, which of course, respectfully, you have that right. But think about it. I remember at a time, the biggest things that Jehovah's Witnesses look for, all right, in that religion, the greatest things that for, let's just say if you're a man and you're going in that religion, because unfortunately women, and it's unfortunate, I won't touch on it, but y'all women can't move up as much with the men who holds a lot of authority and say in that religion. The men, they work their way up to taking the lead, and they take the lead, and from taking the lead, you do talks, and then you take groups out, and then you minister servant, and you elder, and these things grow. My point is, what Jehovah's Witnesses are looking for, okay, is the people that they can train down to the T, expertly. And how they train you is they train your mind, they train your heart, and they condition it. And what they're doing is they're putting things in you in the beginning that you don't know nothing about. I'm gonna give you an example. They'll say, well, you have to have an obedient heart to serve God, to serve Jehovah. You must be obedient. Matter of fact, they even go further to say your love for God and Jehovah is shown through your obedience and through your worship and everything that you do. So when you put it in that sense, you start to question yourself. Well, how much do I worship God? How much do I love him? Do I show it through my obedience? Am I obedient to him? You start to question. Then you start to, from questioning that, you start to tell yourself, well, this is what they're presenting to me, that an obedient heart, if you're obedient to God and Jehovah, is shown through your love, is shown through your worship, right? But what they're really trying to say is, and what they get to after a while is saying, well, because if you have an obedient heart and you're going to be obedient to Jehovah, that means you're going to be more than willing to sacrifice everything you do in your life to please and serve and worship Jehovah. And that also goes into and everything that the religion that reflects Jehovah's name and Jehovah God, everything that they ask of you to do as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You follow me? So this is the thing. They train you on understanding this. They teach you, train you, same thing. And once they start to see that they're feeding, they're feeding you, this whole new way of thinking, this thinking process, that you know what, you have to be obedient. That's what keeps you in the beginning. That's what starts to form. Well, now you're thinking, I have to be obedient to Jehovah, or if I love him, I need to sacrifice. And so when they start off that way, and that's the first things, some of the first things they teach you, now you say, hey, well, you know what? I shouldn't question a lot of things, or I shouldn't complain. You follow me? I recall when they had like I think a watchtower study, and they highlighted a complaining spirit, like having a complaining attitude, so to speak. Jehovah's Witnesses, they expect for you not to have a complaining spirit. And you're not supposed to complain. You shouldn't complain, because why? You're complaining. That's not showing that you're obedient to this religion, what they teach, and Jehovah. So the first thing, my point is, the first things that they do is they dump this on you in a sense, or slowly. They teach you, hey, listen, you need to be obedient. If you love God, if you love Jehovah, then you'll be obedient. If you love God and you love Jehovah and you're obedient, then you will sacrifice. If you love God and you're obedient and you sacrifice, you won't complain. You follow me? So now you're at a point where you're showing your love and your worship and your dedication this way. And now you're fully trained and programmed to walk and think and feel and believe like a Jehovah's Witness. I don't complain. I don't complain. I don't question. It's not a question. It's not a complaint about, because I sacrifice for God. I'm obedient. That's how I show my love. This is what you do. Let me share this with you. I remember the words, that came out of one of the elders, and he told me, and it was interesting, and I'll share with you. He told me, which I believe is relevant to say. He says, you know what? You probably heard of this. The elder told me, he says, you don't want to let Jehovah down, and you don't want to let your family down. You don't want to let them down. So now that's another thing you start thinking about. You start thinking, well, you know what? I don't want to let Jehovah down. I don't want to let my family down. And so what does that mean, that you don't want to let Jehovah down? What are they really saying? What do they teach you? They teach you, well, if you're going to be disobedient in any shape or form, in anything they tell you, anything that's part of that religion, okay, if you're disobedient to that or them, then therefore you are showing that you're letting Jehovah down. And if you have family who are also blood and they're Jehovah's Witnesses, you're letting them down. And on top of that, you're letting all of the brothers and sisters in your congregation and worldwide down. So now they've given you this unnecessary pressure on top of you. Because now you're thinking it's like, oh, well, now I definitely don't want to let God down, and I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let the brothers and sisters down, because therefore what? What is that really in fact saying? It's saying you don't want to let this religious or organization, this religion down. You don't want to, that's really what it's saying. Getting back to this veil. Do you see how that ties in? Now they have, after teaching, putting all of this in you, you're looking at these things like, oh, I gotta sacrifice through my faith, and I do that through my love and my obedience, and I don't want to let God down. I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let nobody down. So now this veil, this strong veil, is covering your way of thinking. It's covering how you feel about things. It's the veil is covering both places. It's covering you. You cannot see through your mind. You can't see through your heart. It's covered. You cannot see through this veil. It's almost like it's unbreakable. But see, this is the reason why I'm making this video and touching on this and talking about it, because you need to see it in this light. You need to be enlightened, and the only way you're going to be enlightened if someone takes the chance and the opportunity to present what's going on. But it's up to you to take the to take the chance on listening to what's being put before you, and take the details and take it for what as is, and start to become enlightened and start to use your personal reasoning. Now, granted, I told you that you're under a veil as a Jehovah's Witness. Granted, I told you how, right? But there's hope. There's a lot of hope. And there's strong hope, because let me help you understand. If you look at it this way, the veil that you're blinded under and you can't see through is really one thing in one word. It's really one thing in one word. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Think about that veil that you're blinded through, that you can't see. Think about it as an umbrella. Okay, you're under this umbrella, this big, huge umbrella. Okay, and that umbrella is simply nothing more than guilt. That's right. If you have not already thought about it, haven't came up to your mind, it's guilt. Guilt is the reason why you're sitting in those chairs. Guilt is the reason why you side by side with these people. Guilt is what has you stuck in this religion. Guilt is what has you trapped. Guilt is what's blinding you. They have instilled these things in you. This unnecessary way of thinking, this pressure, these feelings that you get. And now you feel guilt. You will feel the guilt before, if you was to ever make a move and try to an attempt to go outside what you've been trained and taught or programmed. Think about it. If you can't even think about leaving, oh, forget about leaving where you at now? No. Why? Because you're letting down the Watchtower organization. You're letting down the Jehovah Witness religion. You're letting down the brothers and sisters in your congregation. You're letting down your family. Oh, you're letting down God. You're letting down Jehovah. So with all of this that's going on, that's in you, in your thoughts, in your heart, what do you think you'll do? You'll be hesitant. You'll feel leery. You don't want to do that. But that's how they blind you. That's how they have you caught. That's how they have you trapped. Through guilt. You are under an umbrella, unconsciously, unaware of. And that umbrella is nothing more than guilt. That's all it is. Jehovah's Witnesses place guilt on you to keep you back and keep you where you at. Okay? So if you want to know the real deal, the real raw truth is, my friend, you're blinded as a Jehovah's Witness. You're blinded through a veil. That veil is nothing simply more than guilt. That religion, the way it's set up, the way Jehovah's Witnesses operate, they hide, okay, everything under the umbrella of guilt. And they do it in a way where they say, well, you know what? Your worship and obedience and sacrifice, okay? Obedience and sacrifice and your love is how you worship. And they put it in you that you don't want to let God down. They'll tell you in different forms, in different ways. You'll hear them say, well, you don't want to let God down. You don't want to let your family down. So I get it if you're, like say, for example, if you was born into this religion not by your choice, and this is all you know, and it's tough because you know this way of thinking, and you've been trained this all your life, you've been taught this all your life, so this is what it is for you. You're stuck. You've been behind this veil since you've been born, or since youth, But now let me ask you this. Let's do some reasoning. Let's think about it. At the end of the day, like many other religions, and specifically this religion, can't we be safe? Isn't it safe to say, okay, that we could think about it that in the sense that maybe these people is taking upon themselves to actually do all the thinking or speaking for Jehovah. They're speaking for God. These Jehovah Witnesses, they're speaking for Jehovah. They're speaking for God. They're speaking for how he feels. How can they say how you will let Jehovah down? How can they talk for him? Because technically, specifically, at the end of the day, none of these people is Jehovah. At the end of the day, these people's not God. So that's one thing you have to think about in your mind. Well, these people at the end of the day, yeah, they Jehovah Witnesses, that's what they claim, that's what they go by, but they're not, none of them, all 8+ million of them, none of them is Jehovah. Okay, so you gotta ask yourself that, you gotta ask yourself, you have to reason to understand. You have to ask yourself, why is it you may not realize that you're holding them and everything they say close to, there's only one Jehovah, there's only one God, right? So ask yourself that, like, why are you holding them to what they say about you in regards to letting Jehovah lock down? How can they say that? They don't know you in your heart. They don't have the power to see in your heart and how you feel. They don't have the power to read minds. Think about it. Just do a little bit of reasoning. And when it comes down to letting your family down, well, of course, that's great. They have to get you. They have to get you. This is what they do. They put the guilt trip on you. So even if you think about it and you're like, you know what? Like what I said, you know what? They can't tell me how I will let Jehovah down because they don't know my heart or mind. If that doesn't work, they smart. It's the wise people. They can't go that way. to put the guilt trip on you, then they'll go this other route and they'll go this other way and they'll say, hey, well, you don't want to let your family down. You see? They'll say what they need to say strategically at the right time to have you planted there so you could, you feel kind of stuck, you don't want to leave. This is the one of the main things that I've come to understand, and I realize and I see. Someone commented on one of my videos and told me that that's one of the main reasons people stick around. But is it fair to you, my friend? Really sit down and ask yourself, is this fair to you? Not to the Jehovah Witnesses, brothers and sisters around you, not to your congregation, not to your family. I'm only simply talking to you. Is this really fair to you? This is the grand question that you need to ask yourself. Is this fair to me? What about what I think? What about how I feel? This is the grand question that I want to leave you with to think about, even if you have to meditate on. Okay? What about letting you down? What about you letting yourself down? You ever thought about that? Are you thinking about it? Are you letting yourself down? Is letting yourself down even first? Because let me tell you something, they don't touch on that. It's not about you. In other words, there's no thought in mind about ever letting yourself down. You don't let you down. It's about letting them down. Always about them, or letting Jehovah down, or letting your family down. It's one of those three. But you can never let yourself down if you're making everybody else happy and you're rotating this triangle effect. It's a routine. It's not but a routine and a habit that you live in. Serve God, please God, and my religion. Serve God, please God, and the Jehovah Witness religion. So everybody can stay happy and be happy. But what about you? What about you? What about your feelings? So, my friend, before I conclude my video here, before I conclude this message here and what I'm saying, I'm simply only telling you that guilt has you where you're at. Jehovah's Witness religion, what they do is they lay a guilt trip on you. Okay, they have you blinded through this veil of guilt. It's nothing but guilt. Once they have you blinded through their veil of guilt over your mind and your heart, you're stuck. There's nowhere to go. But if you want to break this way of thinking, if you want to see through this blindness, if you want to be enlightened, then you have to see past all of what they've told you, what they put in your minds and your hearts, because it's nothing to keep you in this big umbrella of guilt. So in other words, if you want to really be truly enlightened and see through this veil and break through this veil, the only way you're going to be able to do so, the only way, listen to what I'm telling you. The only way you will break through the Jehovah's Witness veil is by breaking the guilt, by breaking the guilt that they have laid upon you. It's not necessary, it's not needed, and you didn't ask for it. Okay? Break the veil. All right? There's nothing to feel guilty about. Okay, you have not done nothing wrong. You didn't ask to be born a Jehovah Witness or be born in that religion. Okay? So I really hope you take all the information that I took time to really lay before you to think about. Because at the end of the day, free will is given to you. God has given you free will. You free will to make the decisions and the choices that's going to make you happy at the end of the day. In other words, you don't have to do things because of what's going to make you a religion happy. Okay? And we can't speak about God. We can't speak directly for God and what makes him happy or not. At the end of the day, Jehovah or God, Jehovah God, how you see him, he's the one that has the final say so, and he is the ultimate judge. Bottom line. Okay. So anyway, with that done and said, I want to just thank you so much for, sticking with me and allowing me to bring my message across to you throughout the whole video. I try not to keep it lengthy, but sometimes, you have to get your point across and make sure that you give all the details for somebody like yourself to really grasp and understand. It's always a pleasure. And to my next video, I wish you nothing but happiness, peace, and health.